The Buddhist vihara at Sanchi, famous for its great stupa, is located at Sanchi town in Raisin district of the state of Madhya Pradesh, India. It is 46 kilometers northeast of Bhopal. The Great Stupa at Sanchi is the oldest stone structure in India and was originally commissioned by the Emperor Ashoka the Great in the 3rd century BCE. Its nucleus was a simple, hemispherical brick structure built over the relics of the Buddha. It was crowned by the chhatra, a parasol-like structure symbolizing high rank, which was intended to honor and shelter the relics. The construction work of this stupa was overseen by Ashoka's wife, Devi herself, who was the daughter of a merchant of Odisha. Sanchi was also her birthplace as well as the venue of her and Ashoka's wedding. In the 1st century BCE, 4 elaborately carved toranas and a balustrade encircling the entire structure were added. History. Maurya period. The Great Stupa at Sanchi is the oldest structure and was originally commissioned by the Emperor Ashoka the Great in the 3rd century BCE. Its nucleus was a hemispherical brick structure built over the relics of the Buddha. It was crowned by the chhatra, a parasol-like structure symbolizing high rank. A pillar of finely polished sandstone was also erected. The old stupa was later covered when it was expanded. The bottom part of the pillar still stands. The upper parts of the pillar are placed under a canopy nearby. The pillar has an Ashokan inscription and an inscription in the ornamental Sankha lipi from the Gupta period. Shunga period. The original brick stupa was later covered with stone during the Shunga period. On the basis of Ashoka Vardhana, it is presumed that the stupa may have been vandalized at one point sometime in the 2nd century BCE. An event some have related to the rise of the Shunga Emperor Pushyamitra Shunga, who overtook the Mauryan Empire as an army general. It has been suggested that Pushyamitra may have destroyed the original stupa, and his son Agnamitra rebuilt it. During the later rule of the Shunga, the stupa was expanded with stone slabs to almost twice its original size. The dome was flattened near the top and crowned by 3 superimposed parasols within a square railing. With its many tiers, it was a symbol of the Dharma, the wheel of the law. The dome was set on a high circular drum meant for circumambulation, which could be accessed via a double staircase. A second stone pathway at ground level was enclosed by a stone balustrade with 4 monumental gateways facing the cardinal directions. The buildings, which seem to have been commissioned during the rule of the Shungas, are the 2nd and 3rd stupa, and the ground balustrade and stone casing of the Great Stupa. Satavahana period. The gateways and the balustrade were built and colored, then appeared to have been commissioned by the Satavahana. An inscription records the gift of one of the top architraves of the southern gateway by the artisans of the Satavahana king Satakani. Gift of Ananda, the son of Vasiddhi, the foreman of the artisans of Rajan Siri Satakani. D.C. Sarkar observes that paleographically the Hathagumfa record is slightly later than Nanagat record, whereas the letters of Sanchi inscription of Satakani resemble the script of Hathagumfa inscription. Karavela in his inscription mentions one Satakani, who is identified as Satakani II, who is also identical to the one who inscribed in Sanchi. If this is true, then the dating of Sanchi gateway and balustrade belong to the much earlier period of 180–160 BC. Although made of stone, they were carved and constructed in the manner of wood, and the gateways were covered with narrative sculptures. They showed scenes from the life of the Buddha integrated with everyday events that would be familiar to the onlookers and so make it easier for them to understand the Buddhist creed as relevant to their lives. At Sanchi and most other stupa, the local population donated money for the embellishment of the stupa to attain spiritual merit. There was no direct royal patronage. Devotees, both men and women, who donated money towards a sculpture would often choose their favorite scene from the life of the Buddha and then have their names inscribed on it. This accounts for the random repetition of particular episodes on the stupa. On these stone carvings, the Buddha was never depicted as a human figure. Instead, the artists chose to represent him by certain attributes, such as the horse on which he left his father's home, his footprints, or a canopy under the Bodhi tree at the point of his enlightenment. The human body was thought to be too confining for the Buddha. Some of the friezes of Sanchi also show devotees in Greek attire celebrating the stupa. Later periods, further stupa and other religious Buddhist structures were added over the following centuries until the 12th century AD. Temple 17 is probably one of the earliest Buddhist temples as it dates to the early Gupta period. It consists of a flat-roofed square sanctum with a portico and 4 pillars. The interior and 3 sides of the exterior are plain and undecorated, but the front and the pillars are elegantly carved, giving the temple an almost classical appearance. Temple 45 was the last Buddhist temple built during the mid-late 9th century. Also at this time the monuments were enclosed within a wall. With the decline of Buddhism in India, the monuments of Sanchi went out of use and fell into a state of disrepair. In 1818, General Taylor of the Bengal Cavalry recorded a visit to Sanchi. At that time the monuments appear to have been left undisturbed for a long time and in generally good preservation. Western Rediscovery. A British officer in 1818, General Taylor, was the first known Western historian to document the existence of Sanchi. Amateur archaeologists and treasure hunters ravaged the site until 1881, when proper restoration work was initiated. Between 1912 and 1919 the structures were restored to their present condition under the supervision of Sir John Marshall. Today, around 50 monuments remain on the hill of Sanchi, including 3 stupa and several temples. The monuments have been listed among the UNESCO World Heritage Sites since 1989. Chetiyagiri Vihara and the sacred relics, the bone relics of Buddhist masters along with the reliquaries obtained by Maisie and Cunningham were divided by them and taken to England as personal trophies. Maisie's family sold the objects to Victoria and Albert Museum, where they stayed for a long time. The Buddhists in England, Sri Lanka and India, led by the Mahalbodhi Society, demanded that they be returned. Some of the relics of Sariputta and Moggallana were sent back to Sri Lanka, where they were publicly displayed in 1947. Almost entire population of Sri Lanka visited them. They were later returned to India. A new temple, Chetiyagiri Vihara, was constructed to house the relics in 1952. In a nationalistic sense, this marked the formal re-establishment of the Buddhist tradition in India. Some of the relics were obtained by Burma. Inscriptions. Sanchi, especially Stupa 1, has a large number of Brahma inscriptions. Although most of them are small and mention donations, they are of great historical significance. James Prinsep in 1837 noted that most of them ended with the same 2 Brahma characters. Prinsep took them as Danam, which permitted the decipherment of the Brahma script. An analysis of the donation records shows that while a large fraction of the donors were local, a number of them were from Ujjain, Vidisha, Karara, Nadinagar, Mahisesha, Kurgara, Bogavardhan and Kamdagagam. The inscriptions include those from Maurya, Shunga, Satavahana, Kushana, Gupta. The Yidama Hechu inscription in Temple 45 may be dated to 9th century. Literature. Dehehya, Vidya. Collective and popular bases of early Buddhist patronage. Sacred monuments, 100 BC AD 250. In B. Stoller Miller. The Powers of Art. Oxford University Press. Oxford. ISBN 0-1956-2842-X. Dehehya, Vidya. Indian Art. Phi Eden, London. ISBN 0-7148-3496-3. Mitra, D. Bala. Buddhist Monuments. Sahitya Samsad. Calcutta. ISBN 0-89684-490-0.